Good morning and welcome to our teen Sunday school class. I didn't realize the tape was rolling.
Hand gestures.
We're going to go ahead and just get right into it, and we're going to start off by reading some scriptures. We're not doing a sword drill, don't worry. We're going to start off by reading some scriptures and see what they have in common. All right, our first one we're going to look at is John 14 and 23. That's all right, we're not racing.
No, actually it's harder. No, because it's got different proportions in it.
Alright, Lanee, read John 14 and 23. Bill, do you want to get John 15 and 16? Oh, look.
Chapters?
Chapter 15, verse 16.
Oh. It's like 15 and
14 and 23.
Jesus answered and said to him, "If a man love me, he will keep my words. And my Father will love him, and we will come unto him, and make our abode with him."
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Ye have not chosen me, but I have chosen you, and ordained you, that ye should go and bring forth fruit, and that your fruit should remain, that whatsoever ye should ask of the Father in my name, he may give it you.
Okay. Laney, Proverbs 6:20. Bill, Proverbs 10:17. Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay. My son, keep thy father's commandment, and forsake not the law of thy mother.
He is in the way of life that keepeth instruction, but he that refuseth reproof erreth. Refuseth reproof erreth.
Okay. Let's go. It's gonna be all over the place. Let's go to Laney, Deuteronomy 28:1, Bill, Deuteronomy 5 and 33. There's different ones. It's New Testament and Old Testament.
And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
What is mine again?
5:33.
I just said Bill.
I did too. Five and 33, right?
You get it.
Ye shall walk in all the ways which the Lord your God hath commanded you, that ye may live, and that it may be well with you, and that ye may prolong your days in the land which ye shall possess.
Okay. Now let's go to Laney, Malachi 2 and 2, Bill, James 4 and 7.
If ye will not hear, and if ye will not lay it to heart, to give glory unto my name, saith the Lord of hosts, I will even send a curse upon you, and I will curse your blessings. Yea, I have cursed them already, because you do not lay it to heart. Where's Bill's?
James.
I was just going to read it.
James 4 and 7.
Oh, you
resist the
know that
devil and he shall flee from you. He will.
Submit yourselves therefore to God.
Oh yeah, I forgot. This song
You're
is
good.
song.
Yeah.
Submit yourselves therefore to God, resist the devil and he will flee from you.
Okay, let's see. I should have marked off the ones I already did. Acts 5:32 and 1 John 3:21 and 22.
And we are his witnesses of these things, and so is also the Holy Ghost, whom God hath given to them that obey him.
1 John 3. Oh, there you go. 1 John 3, 21, 22.
Beloved, if our heart condemn us not, then have we confidence toward God. And whatsoever we ask, we receive of him, because we keep his commandments and do those things that are pleasing in his sight.
Lanee, 1 Kings 2:3, Bill, Joshua 1:8. It don't matter who you read first.
Chapter 2, verse 3, correct?
What did I say again?
1 Kings 2.
Yes.
And keep the charge of the Lord thy God, to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes and his commandments, and his judgments and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses, that thou mayest prosper in all that thou doest, and whithersoever thou turnest thyself.
Okay.
This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success.
Okay. 1 Corinthians 15:58 and Luke 6:27 through 28. Both New Testament.
Therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. For as much as ye know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord.
Wait, 1 Corinthians
That was fine.
15:58. She got the Luke already.
No, I did 1 Corinthians.
Oh, yes, Luke.
Okay. 10 and what verse is it? 27.
Yes. I was in the wrong one.
And he answering said, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy strength, and with all thy mind, and thy neighbor as thyself.
Okay. Let's do 2 more. I don't have all the parts. Philippians 2:11, and then are we on James 1 and 22? I don't think so.
Philippians
4,
2 and 11.
2:11.
Yeah, we did James 1:7.
And that every tongue should confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father.
James 1 and what?
22.
We're open. It's 1 page. Seest thou how faith wrought with his works, and by works was faith made perfect?
Okay. All right. Some of the scriptures, I should have marked the ones exactly, but I didn't. Some of the scriptures that we did, Acts 5:29. We ought to obey God rather than man. Okay. Some of the scriptures, that's so funny. Some of the scriptures tell us to obey, and then the other scriptures, it was telling us what happens when we did obey. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about obedience, and there's several different things, but obedience is compliance with a command or known law and rule of duty prescribed. And they say like the biblical thing for obedience is listening to the word of God and doing it. And so going through, different, so many people in the Bible that you can talk about that disobeyed God, and the consequences and stuff that they received because they didn't. And then you can go and you can talk about the people that obeyed God and the reward that they received. And so we're just going to talk about just a few of them. First, we're going to start off with Abraham. Let's go to Genesis 22. Abraham, 22, yes, 22. God asked Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac. And that's a hard thing to be asked to do.
His only son.
His only son at that. And I was like, that's a hard thing to be, and you think, you're like, there's no way that I can do that. But instead of Abraham even asking or anything, you read in Genesis 22, it says, "And it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham and said unto him, Abraham, and he said, Behold, here I am. And he said, Take now thy son, thy only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah." Right? Moriah? Was it Moriah? Yeah, Moriah.
Yeah, that's one.
"And offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of." And it said, "And Abraham rose up early in the morning and saddled his ass and took 2 of his young men with him and Isaac his son, and clave the wood for the burnt offering, rose up and went unto the place of which God had told him. Then on the 3rd day Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said unto his young men, Abide ye here with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it upon Isaac his son, and he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and they went both them together. And Isaac spake unto Abraham his father, and said, My father. He said, Here am I, my son. And he said, Behold, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, My son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went both of them together. And they came to the place which God had told him of, and Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of the Lord called unto him out of heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Lay not thy hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him. For now I know that thou fearest God, seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thy only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him up for a burnt offering in the stead of his son. And Abraham called the name of that place Jehovah Jireh, as it is said to this day, In the mount of the Lord it shall be seen. And so the Lord asked Abraham to do a hard thing, and without hesitation, really. He went and did it. He just did it, really. And I'm not saying that it doesn't give you a lot of Abraham's thoughts about what was going on, but that Abraham, he feared the Lord and wanted to do what he was asked of. He wanted to do what God asked him to do, even if that was giving his only son. And to think about giving your only son just the things that runs back and forth in your mind, but he did it out of obedience. He feared the Lord, and he did what the Lord wanted him to do, and because of that, he still had his son, and the Lord provided a ram. It says, verse, where is it at? 13. Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him up for a burnt offering in the stead of his son. Do you think when they got there that ram was there?
No, they would have noticed it.
They would have noticed it when they went up there.
Mm-hmm.
But his obedience, he was rewarded with a ram, and he offered up the ram for the burnt sacrifice instead of his son. And I believe still to this day, the place is called Jehovah Jireh. And the Lord, he provided, and because of Abraham's obedience, he was given a reward, and he saw how the Lord works when you obey him. Now we can give examples of people who did not obey the Lord, and the consequences and stuff. When you look back at some of the kings of Israel who did not serve the Lord, and they did what was not pleasing to him, and they didn't reign for very long. They disobeyed what the prophet would tell them when the Lord would speak to the prophet. They disobeyed that, and some of them, they didn't live very long to be king. And you go and look, it's like almost like king after king after king after king. And there was disobedience, so they didn't reign long. All right, let's look. Now that was Abraham. Let's talk about Noah. That's in Genesis. Also, we're going to do Genesis 6:22. These are not all Old Testament. Well, most of them. Alright, let me read 6:22 for me.
Thus did Noah. According to all that God commanded him, so did he.
Okay, we all know the story about Noah and the ark, and how the Lord told him, to build an ark because it's about to rain. The people laughed at Noah. They made fun of him. But he believed what the Lord said to him, and he went and he obeyed and went and did it. And he built the ark. It doesn't say that he argued. It tells you that, but Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. And the Lord told Moses, Noah, to build the ark, and he just went. I know, I think it did. And he went and did what the Lord said, and the people, they weren't very kind to them at all. They're like, what do you mean it's about to rain? It hasn't rained in how many ever so years, and the only rain that they really got was like a mist that would,
like the
morning dew. And so they're like, nah, you're crazy. We're not, it's not going to rain, and you're crazy for, building this boat, and we don't believe you until it happened. And because Noah obeyed, Noah, his wife, and his 3 sons and their wives were saved. And because of because of the obedience of Noah, his sons were also saved. They believed their father, and I'm pretty sure they knew things about the Lord also when the Lord would speak to them, and that they would obey. And they believed the obedience of their father to God, that they went with their dad instead of listening to all the people. And there are going to be times where when we obey God, that people are going to look at us like, why are you doing that? You don't have to do that, or you don't have to look like that, or you don't have to wear that. Why is your hair so long? You need to cut your hair. I mean, just different little things. But you're being obedient to God, and obedience brings a reward. Not just in when you talk about the Bible and all the biblical things, but when you're at school, when you're at home, when you're at work. And sometimes I can say from experience, sometimes it's hard to be obedient in things that is not right. And so you really have to stand up and say, well, I know you want me to do this, but can I talk to you about, stand up for what what is right.
And then by being obedient to God, you're also being a light.
Yes.
To whoever you're talking to.
True. Let's look at one more person, and then we're gonna go to some other thing. Let's go to Paul.
Nice intro.
He's a pretty big guy.
Yeah. He definitely deserves a little bump.
I know, right? So, the story of Saul becoming Paul, who was a martyr of the Christians, and as he's walking, as he journeyed, he came near Damascus, and suddenly there shined round about him a light from heaven. 9:3. And he fell unto the earth, and heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And he said, Who art thou, Lord? And the Lord said, I am Jesus whom thou persecutest. It is hard for thee to kick against the pricks. And he, trembling and astonished, said, Lord, what wilt thou have me to do? A man who, destroyer of Christians, he destroyed them. He watched them be martyred. He held the coats of the people that martyred them, He says, What would thou have me to do? And the Lord said unto him, Arise and go into the city, and it shall be told thee what thou must do. So, he didn't even hesitate. He goes into the city, goes to Ananias. Ananias was terrified of him, and because he knew what what he would do. And Ananias had a big part of being obedient also to a man who saw a Christian would immediately turn them in. So Ananias had to be obedient also by helping Saul, who wasn't Paul yet. But because of that day, we see, because of Paul's obedience with going to Ananias and then being one of the biggest parts of the New Testament afterwards, because of his obedience, you see the many miracles that happen. You see the many the people that got witnessed to, the people that were saved. How he almost, which is pretty good, when the who was it? It was the king. Was it king or it was Emperor
Festus or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Almost thou persuaded me.
King Agrippa.
King Agrippa.
There it is.
Yes. To have influence like that, but it was because of his obedience that he was able to do those miracles. And if Paul was here today, he wouldn't say it wasn't because of me, because of what I did. It's because of what the Lord did. It's because of how the Lord, he told me to do something and I went and did it. And you see that obedience isn't something that just goes, whoo! It has to be something that is, what am I looking for? It's something that it's practice it's almost like practice on a day-to-day basis. Not saying, okay, when I get told this, I'm going to do this. When I get told this, I'm going to do this. No, it's not that. It's just knowing. Becomes natural, yes. To you when you are.
It's always been funny to me how, not funny, it's good,
yeah.
But immediately after the Lord spoke to him, then, Lord, what wilt thou have me to do? He worded that perfectly.
Yes.
Not, Lord, what should I do? Or, Lord, how am I going to do this?
Mm-hmm.
It was, Lord, what will you have me to do?
Yes.
I thought the other thing that was interesting about Paul, with the King Agrippa stuff and everything, is that the wording is exactly accurate to what happened here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In other places, people
so
would say,
it's an event that's
yeah,
extremely
right.
important.
Other people may forget that it is hard to kick against the pricks, and I think in a different place, not Paul saying this, but somebody else or something, or no, it was Paul in a different book where he was saying it, and it doesn't include it. But when he was giving his testimony, he knew exactly what words to use because it was ingrained in his mind.
Yes.
And I feel like it doesn't show how important it is when you have in the children's books where it shows it's night and the light is shining like a big giant spotlight on a stage. It's no, it is the middle of the day, and all of a sudden you're blind. I mean, it was
it's like
extraordinary.
It's like being outside.
Yeah.
What is the middle of the day? Our time. It would be what? What time would that be if it's the middle of the day? What do you think about it?
Does it say? Or just midday? No.
Does it really?
It doesn't even say.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
It just said, as he
Yeah.
journeyed, he came near Damascus, and suddenly there shined round about him a light from heaven.
Where did it say it was midday? Not, I don't know.
Is it in another book? It's talking
That's
about
probably
it.
in
Probably
some
in
other
one
book.
of his other books. It
it's probably
says,
in another book, I think.
Because, I mean, he's got a pretty killer
Mhm.
testimony. I would have told it like 6 times, too.
Oh,
So,
really?
And
6
you
recorded
know,
times, you know. or
and
however
some
many.
people, you know, when you tell your a testimony and stuff like that, you're like, nah, I'm not gonna believe it until I see it. Well, they saw it,
Mhm.
and they witnessed it. When he, I wish I could remember all this stuff off the top of my head. When he got bit by that snake, and bro, he just shook it off and just, you know.
Yeah.
What is
Acts
it?
26, it's when he's talking to King Agrippa at midday. O king, I saw in the way I light
Okay.
from heaven above the brightness of the sun.
Midday, okay.
So I thought.
So
Someone
midday,
said it.
midday our time is like what?
12 o'clock, I'd say, or even, a little after that, I think.
Okay,
12 or 1.
12 or 1.
Yeah, around.
It looks like this.
Mm.
It's not even what? It's not even 11 o'clock yet. Okay. So because of Paul's obedience, we have the rest of the New Testament.
Right.
Okay.
This would be like 3 books.
I know, right? All right. So, there's several other people also, but let's talk about why obedience is important. We have about 5 minutes. One reason it is because Jesus calls us to obedience, and that is John 14 and 15, where it says, if you love me, keep my commandments. So Jesus calls us to be obedient. Also, it's I'm going through this quick. It's acts of worship. And it's not in the book of Acts.
Flipping to Acts.
No, it's Romans. Oh, I'm doing I'm just turning right to it. 12 and 1. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercy of God, you present your bodies a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. It's also, as we talked about different ones, God rewards obedience. Luke 11 and 28. Yes.
How? Can't. Every time
Oh,
I flip over to
there
2
we go.
pages, I barely go anywhere.
And it says, but he said, rather, blessed are they that hear the word of God and keep it. So you're blessed. It's a reward. Another reason is it proves our love to God. It proves our love to our parents when we obey them. It shows them that we do respect them and that we want to, do those things. John 5:2-3. And both Jesus was called and his disciples to the marriage, and when they wanted wine, the mother of Jesus said unto them, they have no wine. That's it, John, right?
You said John
Yeah.
5.
5:2. Oh, girl, I'm in.
No, it's John 2.
John
I thought she
5.
said John
Is it the
2.
one of Jesus healing the man?
I believe so.
That's
5:2-3. I just read a different one. Now there is at Jerusalem by the sheep market a pool, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Bethsaida, having 5 porches, and in these lay a great multitude of impotent folk of blind, halt, withered, waiting for the moving of the water. It proves our love toward God.
Well, I mean,
I think
we
the
keep
wedding
reading
at
the
Cana-
story.
I mean, we go,
He
yeah,
obeyed God.
The
Yeah,
wedding-
he did.
The wedding at Cana fits better, maybe. I
but,
think.
yeah, the water turned into wine. Yes, it does, because
The servants of the
yes, okay.
And who obeyed Mary, so.
It demonstrates faith. 1 John 2:3-6. Okay. 1 John 3:2-6. 3. What did I say? 3. Oh no, 2. 3. Listen, I'm backwards today. Thank you. And hereby we do know that we know him if we keep his commandments. He that saith, I know him, and keepeth not his commandments, is a liar, and the truth is not in him. But whoso keepeth his word, in him verily is the love of God perfected. Hereby know we that we are in him. He that saith he abideth in him ought himself also so to walk, even as he walked. Okay. Obedience is better than sacrifice. And that's mentioned in 1 Samuel, which I'm about to run out of time. Not too far, actually. 1 Samuel 15, 22 to 23. Now therefore I pray thee, pardon my sin, and turn again with me, that I may worship the Lord. And Samuel said unto Saul, I will not return to thee, for thou hast rejected. What did I say? 22.
You said 15.
15.
2.
22. Oh, 22. And I was looking at a different one. And Samuel said, hath the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifice, as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness as inquiry and idolatry. Because thou hast rejected the word of the Lord, he hath also rejected thee from being king. This was talking about Saul and his disobedience. Not obedience, disobedience. And how he disobeyed the voice of the Lord. I love you too, baby. And so it's better to obey God than Saul went ahead and did the sacrifice instead of waiting on Samuel, is what it was. And so disobedience, if you don't obey, it's going to lead you to sin. It's going to lead you to death. And also when being obedient, you experience blessings. And we talked about different ones that because they obeyed God and, you know, the many rewards and stuff that they had. Elijah, he didn't even die. He just went to heaven. Enoch, he obeyed the Lord, and so with obedience, when we obey, we will find that we will be rewarded. And that's not just talking about spiritually, but that's talking about physically also. When we do our chores, we know that we're going to get an allowance. Or when we study for our tests, we know that we're going to pass. And so we need to take that step in obeying what the Lord has for us to do. We don't always know what he wants us to do or how he wants us to do it or anything like that. But obeying the Lord will be a reward, and our reward is heaven. And that is one of the biggest and greatest rewards that we could ever, you know, really receive and that we could ever get. Mm-hmm. So, obey. Thank you for being in our Teen Sunday School class. Please join us in our Sunday morning service.